Now we're going to move on to the effects on small business. Now, I was given a testimony, a copy of a testimony that a friend of a friend was asked to give down in South Carolina in front of Congress. And these are his notes, not mine. Small businesses employ approximately 57.7 million Americans compared with large corporations, which are about 60, so roughly equal. For small businesses, current government regulations cost about $10,000 per employee, which is 36% more than larger firms. And in a recent U.S. Chamber of Commerce study, 75% of small business owners see the new healthcare law as an obstacle to hiring new employees. And I can tell you, I've heard this firsthand in speaking in another area in Virginia Beach, where after a talk, a woman who owns a daycare facility stood up and said, you know, she has currently 60 employees and she was going to open, or she was looking into opening another branch. And now instead, she's looking at trying to get under those 50 employees so she doesn't have to provide health insurance or pay a fine. So I put out here again that this new law has a profound impact on our economy and our jobs that we're hearing so much in the campaign about. This particular small business owner in South Carolina goes on to say, I thought that we, meaning small business and the government, were a partnership. You create rules, laws, and regulations that are specific, reasonable, and ones that are understandable. They aren't meant to be punitive and destroy the backbone of America's small businesses. In return, we take calculated risk, hire people, build businesses that are profitable, and pay taxes on those profits. No government created a sustainable society by its government creating jobs and becoming a global economic model to emulate. Would you like a few reminders of abject failures? Russia, Cuba, the entire Soviet bloc countries, and North Korea. If you regulate us to death, surely you will suffocate us all. And that doesn't matter if you're a small business owner, that doesn't matter if you're a doctor, and that doesn't matter being a patient trying to find care. If you regulate us to death, we will all suffocate. Next, we're going to describe taxes. There are 20 new taxes within the new healthcare law, $500 billion that will be raised over the next 10 years. And these are taxes that are not necessarily germane to healthcare. There are taxes on the sale of homes. There are taxes on using a tanning booth. 75% of these taxes will be borne by those making less than $125,000, the middle class. Here's one effect of the medical tax, the medical device tax. Cook Medical, July 30th, canceled plans to expand 5 plants, citing the $15 to $30 million that the company will have to pay on the medical devices tax as the reason. So again, I would say that this law has a profound impact on our economy and on jobs. Papa John's Pizza, this is published in the Huffington Post. They stated that they will have to increase the price of their pizza so that they can provide health care insurance. The National Restaurant Association said that PPACA may affect most restaurants' ability to maintain their narrow margin of profits. I'll put out there, this is going to limit restaurant openings. It's going to limit the number of employees that these restaurants employ. Again, this law is about the budget, the economy, and jobs, as well as what we hear about healthcare. So why are doctors concerned? More regulations. These regulations detract from our ability to take care of patients, and it adds to our overhead. Example that I give is when we have our monthly meetings to discuss how we take care of patients and the business that is medicine, easily an hour and a half out of our last 2-hour meeting was all about how to comply with these new regulations. And these new regulations don't help me take care of my patients. I'll give you one example. We're required to electronically prescribe a certain number of prescriptions for Medicare patients. And if we don't, we get penalized financially. Now, as a surgeon, we don't prescribe blood pressure medicines. We don't prescribe bone density medicines, any of that stuff. Typically, it's either a short duration of narcotic medication for surgery or maybe some anti-inflammatories. Now, the narcotic medication you can't send electronically. So, we have to prescribe a certain number of anti-inflammatories electronically for our Medicare patients or we get dinged. That has nothing to do with my ability to take care of a patient. And yet we have to spend our time not focusing on patient care, but on jumping through a hoop. And we have to have personnel in the background to monitor if we're compliant. Very, very frustrating. We're very concerned about these rationing boards, because these rationing boards are going to put physicians in the position of potentially having to violate the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. And if we do go ahead and recommend a correct treatment plan that the government doesn't endorse, then the physician will suffer the consequences. They'll initially start out being monetary, we won't participate with you or what have you, but there have been some members of Congress that have shared with some physicians out there that repeat offenders will be put in jail. What do you think this does to us? There's this propagation again that insurance equals care, and it doesn't. Let's briefly discuss the doctor shortage. Right now, without PPACA, there are 25,000 new physician graduates in the United States, and there are currently 35,000 physicians retiring each year. So right now, each year, we have a 10,000 physician deficit being created. In 10 years, that's 100,000. This has nothing to do with PPACA. This has nothing to do with the fact that there have been multiple studies, such as this one in Investor's Business Daily in 2009, where it said that approximately 45% of physicians would consider retiring. I would. My brother, who's an OBGYN in South Carolina, he is, because we want to practice medicine. We want to help patients. We don't want to be forced by a bureaucrat to say how we need to take care of somebody. So we're going to add 30 million patients. We're going to have 100,000 physician shortage in 10 years. And we're going to have, because of the baby boomers, a 30% increase in Medicare enrollment. How are we going to take care of these patients? So I'll put out there that the effect on patients will have decreased access to care, will have decreased choice in the care and the provider that we have, decreased quality of care, increased wait time, and increased cost. We will eventually have our care rationed by the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Kathleen Sebelius, or CMS.